This is WFO Radio.
Hey, everybody. It is Friday. It is time for WFO Happy Hour. I'm Joe Castello, and I am ready for the weekend. I don't know about you, but I got the beverages warmed up, and we have got ourselves a very special show. Having a great time with these happy hours and using the opportunity to connect with drag racers, drag racing legends. And on this particular show, going to fulfill an idea that we have been talking about for many years. World-renowned automotive artist Kenny Youngblood, super supporter of drag racing, car culture, hot rodding for many, many years. Kenny and I have been speaking at NHRA national events for as long as I have been working at the NHRA, and been talking about having him on WFO. But as you know, WFO Radio is a podcast. It's audio, and Kenny's work is visual. And it would have been fun, but not as much fun as we are going to have here today. So Kenny is going to join us just seconds from now. We're going to talk about his life, his career, how he got started, where he got started, and all the different amazing machines that he has worked on over the years. Cars that you might not even know are Youngblood machines that are definitely in your mind, that you've seen, things that go beyond drag racing, for instance. So Kenny Youngblood just seconds away. Do want to mention the people who make it all possible here for WFO to do what we do, talking about Total Seal piston rings, the leader in ring seal technology. Gas-ported piston rings can make a lot of horsepower from stock eliminator to Formula One. Go to TotalSeal.com, find out more information, and get ready for our next episode of Hidden Horsepower, the Total Seal podcast. Also, Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. Frank and Lana, they have been so helpful to me on WFO since the very beginning. You know, we've been going for 10 years on this podcast, on this show. They've got their school going, whether you want to become a Top Fuel World Champion or you just want to go on the dragster adventure. They've got something for you. Smaller class sizes now. They're doing what they got to do to stay safe, but go to frankhawley.com to find out more information. Samtech.edu. If you want to become an artist in the machine shop, they can help you do it. Samtech.edu, blockhead CNC programs, motorsport, EFI, tuning, Samtech, Brian Massengill, Linda, Judd down there, legends in their own right. Samtech Factory Stock Showdown. We got the podcast that we do. But if you're looking for a great career that can't be outsourced, that is essential, go to samtech.edu. Find out more information. And finally, Rodax Coffee and Grills.com. Marvin Rodak, he's got his own Youngblood artwork that he got at a Texas Motorplex. Marvin Rodak, hot sauces, spice rubs, everything good. He sells outdoor kitchens right there in Fort Worth, Texas. He's roasting up coffee as we speak. Head over to rodaxcoffeeandgrills.com. Also, if you'd like some WFO Radio stickers, I'll be happy to send some out. If you send me a self-addressed stamped envelope to P.O. Box 848-353 Pembroke Pines, Florida. All right, it's time to get into it. We've got special guests, we've got the artwork, and we have got the man joining us now. You know Blood did it, Mr. Kenny Youngblood. Kenny,
hey,
how are you?
Oh, fantastic, Joe. This is just incredible, man. The modern technology allows us to do this, and what a thrill to be on your show and be able to talk to all your fans and viewers and racers. This is amazing. Thank you.
Well, no, this is something we have talked about for a long time. Your influence on motorsports in general, the sport of drag racing, hot rod culture, and that whole thing that came out of California at that time. And I tie it to, there's that tiki culture, the art, the surfing, all of that was kind of rolled into one. And you took that energy and really led with it on the drag racing, hot rodding side. So we're going to have some of your friends on. We're going to show some of the art. But for me, like the passion for drag racing, the car culture, as a young man, what sparked it?
Well, I was just in love with cars. And my parents, I was born into a family of artists, Joe. And my mom, my dad, my uncle were all painters. But they painted traditional subjects, landscapes, portraits, things like that. And I always liked mechanical things. So my father worked at Hearst Newspapers in LA, and he would bring home stacks of blank newsprint and these beautiful ebony marker pencils. And I would just draw and draw and draw. But it was all mechanical things, cars and trucks and airplanes and stuff like that. And But then my older brother started bringing home some Carcraft magazines and the little Rod and Custom magazines and Hot Rod back in the late 50s. And boy, that just caught my eye. And long before I ever went to a drag strip, I was really in love with drag racing, and went out to first race probably 1958. I'm thinking at San Gabriel drag strip, and saw Mr. Tommy Ivo was out there with his single engine Buick dragster, and most of the other cars at the time were kind of clunky looking, and Ivo's car, of course, was his jewel. This is the car that Don Prieto just recreated. The thing was, beautiful red and black and polished everything, and I'd never seen anything that beautiful. And that was my first day at the races, and it just kind of took off from there. I'm a racer at heart. I started drag racing myself right out of high school. My friend in school, John Kaiser, his dad, he bought us a Deuce Coupe Chrysler powered car that we raced, and then John got his girlfriend in a family way, and so Dad pulled the plug on that, but I wasn't ready to quit. I built myself an 8-fuel dragster back in, 65, I'd say, and I started racing myself. So I'm a racer at heart. I will say that I did a good job driving, Joe, but I knew deep down I wasn't really cut out to be a driver. It was a thrill doing it. I did a good job, but I kind of felt like a kid with his hand in the cookie jar all that time, doing something that I really shouldn't have been doing. Did it for a couple of years, then got out of the driver's seat, but went on to work on cars, the early funny cars, 1969. That's where I met Mike Van Sant, worked on the Invader. And the car that was a twin to ours out there at Lions was Jim Shoe's Hellfire, with Johnny Wright driving, Steve Montrelli wrenching it. And the two cars they were Chrysler powered Corvette body cars. And up until that time, I was a dragster guy. I used to, poo-poo on those funny cars. They're ruining the sport. Until one night at Lions down there, and I saw Mike Van Sant in that Invader car, and only a few of those older fans might remember. The younger fans would have no idea how those cars were set up back in the day. They had full suspension. They had coilover shocks, all four corners, a fuel motor, and an automatic transmission, a torque flight or power glide or whatever they used. And so picture a fully suspended car with a fuel motor with an automatic transmission. So the things would just rock like an animal. And they do a burnout and they back up, I mean, it would just, it makes the hair stand up on my arms today thinking about it. They were so nasty just to watch them and do their burnouts, and they'd go up to the stage and it'd be hard to hold them on the line. They'd take off and they'd pull that left front way up and get gone. And I fell in love with it. Not only that, but the Invader car, actually, they worked on it out of the paint shop that I worked at in 1969 with Dick Olson and Bellflower. So I got to know Glenn and Mike Van Sant, and of course, instantly wanted to work on the car and be a crew member. So we took off. And yeah,
all right,
doing that.
Now, this is a happy hour, and everybody gets real invested in this. So what I'm doing is I am working through my stockpile of airplane Tito's that I have collected over the past couple of years. I have a stock. I always get one before I leave, and so that's what I'm going to be enjoying here on our happy hour show. What about you, Kenny?
Well, we're 3 hours
it's early
in front of you here, so
breakfast.
I've got a nice chilled glass of ice water here right now. So
that's good. Well, I've got ice
for me.
I've got ice as well. Cheers. Thank you for doing this, first of all.
Oh man, it's a great honor.
All right.
It's a mild day here in Vegas. It's only about 103 today, so it's pretty cool for us here in the summertime. But it's going to get warmer tomorrow.
Well, we're in Florida, South Florida. It's humid and hot. Now, we do have an audience out there on Facebook who will be chiming in, some people that we do not know and some people that we know. For instance, Jeff Foster from the Strip at LPS. Jeff is out there weighing in. He is obviously a good friend to me, but he's a little something more to you.
Yeah, he's married to our daughter, Michelle, and we kept it in the family. I met my wonderful wife Terry at Orange County Raceway. She worked out there. She loves drag racing more than me. We moved up to Vegas here, and we would Chris Blair, the farm manager out there at the track at LVMS, he really took a liking to Michelle and would have her come out and work the track there on weekends, which was nice. She was still in high school. He gave her a little income. It wouldn't mess with her school schedule. And so then when he moved on, she met Jeff out there, and bada bing, we kept it in the family. So my son-in-law is the track manager here at the Strip of Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and so I have to stay on my toes.
Hey, he does a great job, and he is well loved throughout the sport. I can tell you that because he puts in a lot of work. Now, I do want to mention, reached out to Mighty Mike. Mighty Mike from the Invader Funny Car is recovering from a little motorcycle incident, but I did share with him the link, and so hopefully he will be watching, if not now live, then after the fact. So let's talk a little bit about. You've supplied us with some photographs. So let's talk about early on some things that we see. So what are we seeing here? Steve Reyes taking the shot. But from what I understand, this is where a lot of this all started. So what are we looking at here?
Yeah, this photo gets around quite a bit. It's Don Kirby's paint shop in Bellflower, California, the corner of Clark and Artesia Boulevard. And we did a lot of cars. Don, unlike a lot of painters, I won't name names, but some of them did drugs or got drunk or hard to count, couldn't count on them. And Don he didn't drink, didn't do drugs. He was a hard worker. He'd get there at 6:30 in the morning and work till 3 o'clock and get this stuff done. And I'd come in the afternoon and we'd letter them. So the guys knew they could take their cars to this shop and it would get done on time and would come out pretty nice looking. And so we were like an overnight success. One of our customers, Big Willie Robinson, and that's me, they're working on his Dodge Daytona that he street raced. And we just cranked out a lot of cars. You don't think about it back in the day, but it was quite something. We'd have just cover cars and best appearing cars all over the place and all over the country. The guys would come out from the East Coast during the winter to rebuild their cars. Back then, there wasn't really national events, just a few, and all the funny car guys would match race. They'd come out on the West Coast in the wintertime. They'd get maybe a new chassis, a new body paint job. Keith Black was right there, Ed Pink, Donna, Zuchel and all those guys. And so it was really the hub where they could get their stuff built. So while they were waiting, getting their chassis and engines built, we would be painting the bodies. So I can tell you a good story about my friend Ed the Ace McCullough.
Yes, that's what we really like, the stories you must have. I was speaking with Ed Pink the other day on the Hidden Horsepower Total Seal podcast, and he described the scene that you just described, like Keith Black, Ed Pink, the body shop, like this hub. You hear about it with musicians, you hear about it with artists, and now this is like, for drag racers, almost a commune of drag racers, right? Hot rodders. I can't imagine the stories you have. Bring it. Let's hear it.
Oh, yeah, it was Woodstock. I'm sure Ed won't mind me telling this story, but he was racing with Art Whipple back then. Very successful car, powerful car, the Whipple McCullough car, first car to run over 200 at Orange County. And so they're out here down in SoCal getting a new car built. And, of course, the racer actually didn't have much to do while things were getting done. They could go over to the race shop, this and that, but mostly they were sitting around the motel playing poker or doing whatever. And so one day we're at the paint shop there, and about a half mile away, I started hearing this loud boom sound. And man, what is that? Well, it kept getting louder and louder and coming closer and closer. And finally, here comes Ed and Art in their ramp truck down the street. And this big old Dodge ramp truck had a round muffler on it about like this, and they're doing muffler pops in this truck. You turn off the ignition and let the gas build up in the muffler and light it, and boom. And so they come wheeling in the paint shop, they're both of them are drunk as skunks, man. And they fall out of this truck just laughing their butts off, you know. Well, about 5 minutes later, here comes Bellfire police pulling in. We heard reports of a gunfire, shotgun going off around here. Oh, we don't know nothing about that, sir, you know. And they left. But that was Ed and Art having some fun while they're waiting on their car.
It was a different era then, obviously, and so some of the stories are, you know, may come across as a little irresponsible now. So many fewer people, period, like citizens. It was just a different time. I think it is great. Let's talk about some of the, you know, the big things that people know. First of all, you're still involved in the sport to this day. Like, you're out there with some of the best. I remember when Alexis and JP came around the first time, you were always there. Good friends, you know, the Goose, obviously Mongoose was tremendous, and you are still still in love with drag racing.
Oh yeah, you're always gonna, love doesn't go away, and you're always gonna be a part of that. I still enjoy it. My wife and I still love going to the races, especially on the nostalgia of funny car races. For us old guys, that's as close to the good old days we're gonna get. So we enjoy going to the March Meet and the Boise races and the Hot Rod Reunion and like that. But yeah, I'm sure we'll be doing it. Me and John Force will be doing it till they take us away.
Well, that is great. We want you to stay around as long as is possible. Like, Warren wants to know if you're going to be at the Hot Rod Reunion in October. It all depends on, I guess, on the health situation. How have you been dealing with that? You know, not to infect our fun drag racing happy hour with seriousness, but it is part of.
We're fine. Let's see. Do I have to wear this to be on the show today?
No, you don't. But
anyway,
I got mine too.
You know, I would just ask Warren, hey, is there going to be a Hot Rod Reunion? Of course, I'll hope there is, but everything's just kind of fluid right now, and we're really at the mercy of the powers that be. And so, hope, God willing, they'll have that reunion, and we should be planning on being there.
Exactly. So you've done some of the very well-known machines in drag racing that people know and discuss. We'll get into that. But right now I want to bring on a guest that you're working on a project that is of significance. Like, here is the before, the original shot of the Hellfire funny car that you just discussed moments ago. And to me, that thing is gorgeous. And that's just a picture off the wall. And here is the version of it today. And we'll add to the show the owner of said Hellfire funny car, Mr. Jim Shue. Jim, welcome to our happy hour. And Kenny's got you dialed in, man. Look at that thing. That's pretty impressive.
Beautiful. I'm over the top with the whole thing.
So you built that originally? Like, when did that come around? That was right at the beginning.
When it came around this time?
Well, originally.
Initially I was in '69, and I got interested. I was running an El Camino funny car that I had, and I drove it one time and realized I'm not a driver. It's not in these beasts, not with that kind of power. So I decided to go from ground up and build an all-out tubular chassis funny car. And I liked the Corvette, so I went with the Corvette, and I got hooked up with John Wright, and I got hooked up with Steve Montrelli, and we put the car together. With Kenny's help and everything in the day, I was pretty much at home working to make the money to pay for it. When it got together, I had, I think, some of the best people that I thought could do the job for me. And anyway, it worked out really, really good. And I'm so pleased that Kenny got involved with me on this restoration, because in my wildest dreams, I never would have even considered doing this, thought about doing this. It never was something one of these days I'm going to do. It just came about. The car was in New Orleans, and the guy had it there and had it on auction. So I thought, well, I'll take a look at it. I'll go down and feel it, touch it. If I like it, maybe I'll buy it. So I got down there. That's what I did. I saw it. I called up Steve Montrelli, and I said, Steve, here's what I want to do, and here's what I want. I said, I want the loudest, cackling, flame-throwing funny car on the planet. And his comment was, we can do that. So
That is great.
anyway, it's been almost a year long in getting everything together, and but it's been really worth it. The car is outstanding. And, a lot of fun stories from way back in the racing, which Kenny liked to say he was with the Invader. I had the Hellfire. We were competitors a lot. Probably if I had to get right down to my fondest moments of racing, period, was the camaraderie. The other is we won a 3-day meet where we were out at Lions the first night, set Bowie top speed. Same thing the next day at Carlsbad, blew the engine to the light, racing Dale Poldy. Oh, and I forgot to tell you that at Lions, we raced against Gordon Minio and beat him in the final. Raced against Dale Poldy, stayed up all night, got Gene Conway was our transmission guy. So we went up and he had an old Frank Petragon short block. So we think we paid $300 for it, bought that, put it back in the car, went to Irwindale the next day, set Moe T top speed of the meet, met the Invader Corvette in the final round and won that.
Wow.
And the Hawaiian's the only other one that I can think of that did that.
3 meets, 3 days. Kenny, talk a little bit about this. It's a reproduction, but it's the original car. Jim told me earlier that really you're the motivating factor. So you're peer pressuring, which is good. I'm a big believer in peer pressure. How did this all happen? And he says the car looks nicer than the original one.
Well, it came out real nice. It'd be a tough call. It was a pretty car to begin with, but Jim, of course, is the driving force and wanted to do it. I was hoping that he would do it because I couldn't wait to get my hands on it. And it takes, it's always a team effort. I've worked with an old school painter up here in Vegas, Roman Gomez, and Johnny Deal, Pinstriper, and Tim Seeger did all the lettering masks for us so we could get it really accurate to look like the original car. But it's been a great project, and we had some fun back in the day, and we're planning on making some news stories and having some fun with the car here as soon as we get it out there.
Yeah.
Right, Jim?
What about it, Jim?
I'll tell you what, when this thing's done, we fired it up a couple weeks ago, and I would not fire that car up without Steve Montrelli being the man that did it. And unfortunately, John Wright is dead. And sorry. He won't be here to see it, and I regret that. I really do. But anyway, I can hardly wait to get the thing together. And when I do, and when it's able to, I'm going to have the biggest party at my house. I have a party house that
he does
over the top, and we're going to fire that sucker up here. And I'm going to try to get 3 of the more famous drivers to do it 3 different times that evening when I have that party. And of course, you're invited if you like to come. Wow,
that's tremendous. Well, Jim, I just met you, but just judging by the photographs, you special lady sent these photos over, and judging by what you're able to accomplish, I definitely want to be hanging out with you. That's the that's the answer. Is I definitely want to hang out with Jim Shue. Amazing stuff.
I got Elizabeth with me right now. I want to lean into the camera here.
Look at this guy, Kenny. What's going on with this?
Yeah, Lady Elizabeth. Hi, Liz.
Hellfire girl.
She's hot. She's fast. She's just like a funny car. Really exciting.
Hey, then get 22. Yeah, I got my lady, my gal Terry here too with me.
Oh,
so Terry can say hi to everybody.
Hi,
We're all happy houring it here.
You guys are cute. I like it. All right, let's keep on going. Yeah. I want to show some of the art. Jim, hang on there. We're going to bring in some other guests as they get online. But I want to talk about some of the art that has happened, like things that Kenny has done that people maybe don't realize that are Youngbloods. Here's one that surprised me. For instance, everybody knows Danny Sullivan's Spin and Win. I did not know that this was a Youngblood design. Tell me about that. We all know the car. It's one of the most striking, well-known Indy cars in the history of the Indianapolis 500, and that's a Kenny Youngblood.
Yeah, that I was working with Miller Beer back then. They came in. That was during the beer wars at NHRA. You had Miller, Budweiser, and Coors, and so I did a lot of the stuff for Miller and the funny car for Ed the Ace and dragsters for Larry Miner. And so they says, "Hey, can you do something up for the Indy car?" Yeah. So they had some great pieces. That paint scheme. The star and the gold and the white and the stripes and everything. So it was really fun to work with, and it came out really nice looking. So I told Danny that, if you hurt this car, I'll wring your neck. So he didn't hit the wall.
Well, right. Exactly. He did a heck of a driving job to keep it off the wall. All right. Another one that I think we all have had an experience with. I know that I wore this tape out as a little boy, and the videos were amazing on MTV early on. And I don't know, I want your opinion about like designs, the design that has been most seen. It's going to have to be pretty close, but I think the ZZ Top Eliminator Coupe might be the most. This is a cover of a model car. And to think of just like how many different toys, you can buy it on Amazon right now. How many different people have seen that one through MTV, through the video, through ZZ Top? How did that one come together?
Well, I would say that it is I would say the most recognizable hot rod ever produced. And the only thing that differentiates it is the graphics on the car. If it didn't have that, it'd just be one in a million red 33 coupes. But we added those graphics, and of course, with the notoriety of ZZ Top, and the thing was instant success. I was actually contacted by Don Phelan, Buffalo Motor Cars, who Billy had contracted to build the car, and at the time, and Don called me and asked me to do the graphic designs for it. And I have to admit, correct me if I'm wrong, I wasn't really into the group back then, and I think this album really put them over the top. Yes. And yes. I had heard of ZZ Top. I actually thought they were a country western band at the time, but anyway, I said, "Hey, yeah, we'll do this." So I did up like 15 or 18 different designs for it, and I sent them over to Don. And Billy called me on the phone. I had never met him, but he called me on the phone, and he put this story in his book, in his autobiography, because I really forgot about it. But he told me, he says, "Yeah, I like this one design, number 15 or whatever." He says, "But the problem is that the Z's are going the right way on the driver's side of the car, but they're backwards on the passenger side of the car." I says, "Well, when you're driving down the street, you can look in the storefront windows, and they'll be going the right way." And
there you go.
Anyway, they ended up, but and so again, I had never met him, and but he's an amazing guy, and you just never know. And he's total motorhead. You never know where he's going to show up. We're out at the Winter Nationals gym running the Invader, and this guy with a long beard comes in our pit, and he's hanging around. I don't know who it is. And one of the fans says, "You know who that is?" It's Billy Gibbons. So that's when I first met him.
And you've since you got to hang out with the gentleman at some point.
Yeah, we've been to a couple of his concerts, and boy, they put on, it's the best rock and roll show there is. And we were in Vegas there. He was at the MGM back then, and I'm sorry, it was the Hilton. And we were backstage with him, and Billy, he says, "Kenny, you're always drawing stuff for me. Can I draw something for you?" I said, "Sure." And he borrowed my pens and paper, and he got down on the floor and he drew a hot rod. I should have sent you a picture of it, because I don't know how many people have a Billy Gibbons original.
I can't think. So my take on ZZ Top, just to give you my deal, because of the birth of MTV, those early on videos were so important. They had other hits, LaGrange, etc. But when the Eliminator album came out with Sharp Dressed Man and Leg, they loaded the videos up with hot babes, and the coupe, it was a hit. And if you go back and watch like the birth of MTV documentaries, they always show those videos, and you're part of that. So MTV, music, television, pop culture, if the car wasn't nearly as cool, who knows? Maybe the network would have failed.
Who knows?
Who knows?
And I certainly didn't know when we did it. We just do our thing,
That is Well, that's one of the reasons why we're taking the time. All right, now this one I think everybody knows, but I mean, I didn't know the story that this was you. I did not know this, and I am a diehard fan of this man. I did not know that Kenny Youngblood designed the original Wrangler number 3 for Richard Childress Racing and Dale Earnhardt, and that was the first 3. And you think about the 3 to this day, that's a Youngblood.
Again, that's probably the most recognizable numeral in the history of the world, that / number 3. And I told Joe the other day that I worked back then with Bob Cashler, who did marketing for a lot of the teams, a real genius. And he called me up one day, says, Kenny, you think you could draw a NASCAR? I said, sure, I'll draw one. So I'm working on this proposal for Wrangler, this new guy named Dale Earnhardt driving. He's supposed to be pretty good. And so we drew it up, and they got the deal. And a few months later, I'm at the SEMA show, setting up my own display. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this yellow and blue Monte Carlo getting pushed in there. And I go, hey, that's my car. So I go running over there. And this was before Dale was an unknown. This is his first NASCAR deal. And here's Dale Earnhardt Sr. by himself pushing this car into the SEMA show there. And so I helped him get it in its position, introduce myself. He was very nice, very cordial. Told me it was the best looking car he ever had, and blah, blah, blah. That was my first and last personal meeting with him. But it wasn't until just some years ago I attended a wedding in Charlotte, and I had a layover, and I thought, well, I'm going to go to the Childress Museum and see my car. And I go over there, and they've got it sat in the lobby, that beautiful display that you have the picture of there with the statues and everything. And I took a picture, and I'm looking at it on the plane flying home, and I'm thinking, dang, we did that number 3, that / number 3. So somebody had to do it, I always say.
It's funny that you didn't even realize that it's one of many works that you did.
Yeah.
That 3 has endured, and when NASCAR fans do that, the countless flags, that's 3 was a very big deal. It says iconic.
Of course, he had that 3 all trademarked and all this and that,
Yeah,
I'm waiting on my check, but
yeah, that's I'm sure that's a little also not only drag racing, IndyCar racing, sports car racing, different style of graphics, but
yeah, now
Porsche, that's a very well-known car.
Yeah.
Sports car
but this, of course, that Porsche was driven by Jim Busby, who was a great drag racer. He and Hank Westmoreland ran Top Fuel. He built that twin engine Ford Coyote motored thing or whatever, and big drag racer. And I never knew that he was a driver, but he went over to the sports car world there, the IMSA world, and just one of the best drivers. And so he calls me up and he says, Kenny, can you do something on the graphics with this Porsche? We got BFG and everything on it. And this car is really one of my favorites because if you look at other cars back in that era, again, they were pretty clunky looking. And I took the Porsche and I applied a little drag racing graphic science to it. The side window on that car is just a little tiny square window. So we just blacked out that whole teardrop there on the side and extended down the nose and put a swoopy scheme on it. So when he took that thing out, he not only was kicking ass winning races, but the thing was just miles ahead of anything out there as far as appearance wise, really set the trend. So real proud of that car.
All right. On that note, setting the trend, being cutting edge, doing things that haven't been done before. Let's bring in our next guest who, from what I understand, was a motivation for what some consider the most beautiful funny car to ever exist. Joining us, Mr. Al Segrini, driver of the Black Magic funny car. Al joining us from the Northeast Massachusetts area. Al, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Joe. How are you?
I am great. Where are you located? Are you partaking in a happy hour with us? I can see you're in some sort of shop. It looks like you got a...
I can't stay away from drag racing. I'm at my buddy's shop down in Weymouth, Massachusetts. He has two of the most gorgeous nostalgia funny cars that anybody could race. And they both haul ass too. And the guy's a hell of a racer. He's got a great shop. There's a lot of business in the New England area. But I can't get too far away from these race cars.
Yeah, I know. All right. So, Kenny, let's tell the story of the Black Magic, voted by many as the funny car over the years. This is the photo that we've got. It warped people's minds about what was possible. Let's talk about this car and how it changed the way people attacked having a race car.
Yeah, well, I had, I certainly knew who Al was and would read about him and this and that. And but he got a hold of me and he says, Kenny, I'm building this new car with Jim Beatty at ATI, and it's going to be a Vega body, and it's going to be, we're going to call it Black Magic, and I want you to design the scheme for it. And so to me, I love black cars, basic black cars, and so it had all the right ingredients because it had that slope nose Vega, which is a sleek body, a great name, Black Magic, and it wanted to be black. So it was the perfect storm, so to speak. And so we came up with that design. And, back then the magazines would say, oh, we won't put a black car on the cover of a magazine. Well, of course, it wasn't solid black. It had the right colors on it, but it was so popular. It was on the cover of 3 magazines in the same month. And I think when Al rolled it out of the trailer, and of course, working for guys, I always wanted to make the cars look great, but it's especially rewarding when you're working for somebody like Al, that really the appearance is important to him, if not more so than their performance. He wants to run fast, but he wants that thing to be beautiful. And that's the guys that I love working for. And Al was certainly one of them. And I think they rolled it out of the trailer. And he says, Kenny, when I roll out of the trailer, I want their jaws to drop on the ground. And so Tom Stratton and I applied that original paint job on it at Tom's shop in Pomona. And I think I did the lettering on it at my house in Orange, California, which brings me, I got to tell one little story on Al. Al's got that wonderful Boston accent there. He just said it. Yeah.
Story.
His car looked good. But he was at my house there, and we were out in his trailer, and there was some clutch parts laying up on the bench. And Al says, yeah, this clutch here, it's just no good. It's whopped. And I'm thinking, whopped? What is it, Italian clutch? What are you talking here? Well, he was trying to say warped, but he was saying it in Boston, But Al, and then we just became great friends. And anybody that knows Al knows he's true blue. He's a loyal friend, and what an asset to the sport he's been over the years. And of course, went on to run the beautiful Super Brute cars. He go from Steve Kluger to just a great guy. So good seeing you today, Al.
Well, it was great seeing you against Kenny, and it brings back a lot of memories. And I was looking it up, and it's 45 years that we debuted that car at Gainesville, Florida. And to this day, I was way ahead of my time. But this is the way the pros are now, and this is how I wanted to be. And you're right about it's very important to me, the assembly of the whole car. It's not just the outside body. When you raise the body up, I want people to go, oh, my God. The rest of the car is an extension of the paint job. And you did a hell of a job, and I'll never forget that day meeting you.
Yeah, of course, we've lost a lot of that, unfortunately, back in the day, Joe. The guys fussed over the chassis and the engine's appearance as much as they did the outside. They paint the chassis, the blowers were polished, the tin was anodized and variegated, and the chassis were just really beautiful. Of course, all that's gone by the wayside, and for practicality's purposes, it's a whole different world now. But back then, those cars were works of art, just inside and out.
So let me ask Jim and Al. Kenny's an artist, guys, and the word on artists is that they can be difficult. But I don't know. I've never worked with Kenny like that, so he's always an easygoing dude. What's it like, Al? First, working with Kenny, like his ideas, your ideas, the back and forth, the ebb and flow of the creative process. What was that like, Al?
I just gave him open reins to run with it. I knew his background, his reputation, and when I brought up that Black Magic card. He was really happy about the name of the car. And you run with it. We ever come out with that magic lantern on the hood and all airbrushed and all the colors come out over the roof and down the side. I mean, you could just see it. It blew a lot of money.
Tell him about Van Gogh.
He's got the right shirt on today because he is the king.
Aha. All right, Jim, what about you? What's your side of it?
Jim's gone to sleep.
Well, it's the thing I like about Kenny. I know over 50 years, but I come up with the ideas, and then he puts them on paper, and then he makes it work. And we're working on a rendering right now of the Hellfire, and I think that says a lot for the man, and gives his credibility, which he needs no credibility. He's already got that. But I'm just glad that I know him and that he's helping me with the Hellfire. And I'm looking forward to more days. We're working on a couple of things right now. And I can't really wait to get it done and get going. I'm a guy who doesn't wait for anything. Kenny will tell you that.
Yeah.
And that's what I got to say about Kenny. Good.
That's awesome. So Kenny, I want to show some more of Kenny's art and ask some questions. Some things like, not only do you do designs for machines that make it to the road or off-road, say, different events, or for perhaps the water, you have got a business that extends beyond designing schemes, but you do renderings of those schemes, paintings and otherwise paintings. And you're at races autographing for fans and all. So talk about that side of it, because everybody wants a Youngblood. If they're going to go out of the way, they're going to go out of the way to have a design or to capture a moment like this, the championship moment from a few years ago. There's Scott overlooking it. Like, that's a big part of what you do to this day.
Yeah, it was back in the 70s. I was, designing the paint schemes on the cars, but I just knew in my heart that there were a lot of guys out there like me that if they had a choice as to what to hang on their wall, they would put a picture of a race car up there instead of a flower pot. And so we started doing some paintings and making prints and reproducing them. Somebody sent me my first ad for my prints. It was in National Dragster, I think, and they were $5 a piece or $10 if you wanted my signature on it, and so that took off, and I really enjoy doing the paintings as well, and we've done a lot of stuff and sold limited editions, and again, we were unknowingly the pioneer really of the motorsport collectibles business, Joe, because there was nothing back then. You could, I don't know if you could even buy a T-shirt at the races or anything. There was really nothing, and I started doing those paintings and selling those to mass market worldwide. And it was another 8 years or so before the rest of the world caught up. I remember Waterbed Fred Miller coming up to me. Fred had gone to work for Fred Wagnalls at Action, and Waterbed came up to me. He says, "Kenny, so I'm going to show you something." He says, "This is going to be the biggest thing in racing." And he had his hand out like this, and he opened his hand, and there was a little tiny die cast about this big in his hand. And he says, "This is going to be huge." And I remember, laughing, thinking, "What are you talking about? What's the big deal there?" Which, of course, it turned into the billion-dollar die-cast industry, and of course, the whole collectibles thing, went ballistic. And unfortunately, by that time, I was kind of getting burned out on it, backed out, so I missed out on my piece of that. But I can't. We did very well, and I thank the Lord for what we did. But yeah, the paintings. In fact, I've been real busy this year, Joe, and I've done several pieces, and here's one that the fans probably haven't seen that I'm gonna. This was I did for this is a painting. That's a print. Let's see. It's of John Force, and this was a commission for a gentleman for Dana Anguish, and he took this photo, and we call it Before the Fame, and so that's one of the pieces. Maybe this Christmas we'll have offered as a little gift set of this and some other pieces that we've done that the fans haven't seen. In fact, I sent you a picture of the one, the Chi-Town Hustler piece, that piece right there, which very special piece to me. That was done from a photograph by Alan Ehrman, late Alan Ehrman, a great guy, super photographer, and it was a black and white photo. And I always wanted to do a colorized version of it. And I was getting ready to do that when, in fact, Karen Minnick, Bill Manrock called me. Karen, of course, Pat Minnick's daughter that drove the car. And they says, hey, we want to get a painting done of this car. I said, well, hey, I'm starting on one. And so they commissioned the painting, and it hangs in their home back in Chicago.
Wow. But, that is amazing. And Jeff Foster points out that you do portraits of the right subject, which I don't know if that's tongue in cheek, but I've got a couple of examples of things that are certainly the right subject. We've got Miss Linda, of course, who I have been fortunate enough to work with, First Lady of Motorsports, and someone who's pretty important in NHRA drag racing history, Mr. Wally Parks. That one,
right on.
That's presidential right there, Kenny.
Yeah, again, that was from the heart. I really wanted to knock that out for Wally, and it was a lot of fun. Nearly a life-size piece, and it hangs in the NHRA Motorsport Museum. Not where it should be hanging, if you're listening, museum, but it's in there. You seek it out.
We're trying to find a better position for it. Well, I don't mind lobbying at all. A couple of other works that people may recognize. This one, I remember this one everywhere. This was for sale everywhere, and just the connection between our sport and the space program and barrier breaking. Like, to me, you captured everything that is our sport.
Yeah, that's my signature piece, I call it, and the greatest depiction, a little fantasy depiction of drag racing. And the good Lord above gave me that idea, and he said, if you took one of these cars at night with the smoke and the fire and turned it up on in, it looked like a rocket taking off. And so we did that up, and it captures the heart and soul and the imagination, everybody's imagination of the sport. So beyond 300.
Tremendous. All right, let's bring in our next guest. Let's keep it going. Kenny calls him the social director, so to speak. And it's Dan Althouse. His dad is a stock eliminator Hall of Famer in the NHRA. His picture is not coming up on our screen. I'm going to kick you out there, Dan, and then bring you back and see if we can get Dan back. But Dad, a multi-time stock eliminator world champion. All right, so Dan is having a little bit of an internet issue. We'll bounce him out and bring him back. But he has supplied some photographs of things that are very important. So not only do you do cars and portraits and paintings, but you do gauges, like for a human being.
Yeah, we have the the liver light. Check your liver light there.
He's if he's getting going, you know exactly.
Dan is we call him our social director. When we go to the races, he's there to have fun and to make sure that everybody has a good time. So he brings all the necessary equipment in order to do that, and we have a lot of fun doing it. Him, Debbie Howard, and the crew, and so Dan came up with check your liver light. If you're having, you don't want to be overserved there at the races. So I painted a liver light right there on his
you proper location. He was a living subject. Is that the first living subject that you've had? I hear that's a popular thing in some circles.
Yeah, well, I probably not. I've probably done a few things, but it brings me to the point that there's some great people involved in this sport, and the fans that watch TV. Of course, they all know the drivers and the crew chiefs and the teams. But if you're inside the sport, you get to know some people that aren't drivers, they aren't team owners, and yet they're there and they become a part of our racing family. Danny Althouse, of course, his dad, famous racer, but Danny's out there and in the pits and part of our family. Guys like him, like Gypsy, like Honda Doug, and Linda and people that that we love as members of our family, which of course is the greatest thing about this sport, is that we fall in love with the machinery and the cars, but then we get to meet the people and the racers, and that's where it really gets good. We met Brett and Carol Gothi up in Denver, friends with Alexis, and of course you go to the races and it just networks, And then we have the family of announcers out there, and I was telling Joe the other day that it's so great to be able to hear good announcing, just like I love what I do. Joe loves what he does. Alan Reinhardt, Jason Galvin, Nathan Hershey, they do such a great job and make it fun to listen to. And so that they're all part of our family. And we go down the road together, we race together, we win together, we lose together, we laugh together, and sometimes we cry together. We just lost Mike Cool this week, and that's when we're glad we're together as a family to share our joy and our sadness.
Yes, what a point. Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. And on that note, we've got Dan, the social director, has arrived. We've already spoken about your liver. Your liver is now a celebrity worldwide. You have a celebrity liver. How are you, Dan? Can you hear us, Dan?
Big Dan.
Dan's
put the drink down.
I'm having horrible audio problems here.
We can hear you.
I'm having audio problems.
Oh, that is
we got you.
Unfortunate. We hear you great, Dan. We hear you. It's just you probably can't hear us. Tell us something about Kenny.
Oh dear.
Well, and you know what? Dan and I did a test.
I can hear.
Okay, there you go. Tell us a story about Kenny, Dan. What's this guy like behind the scenes?
Uh-oh. This is good time to have audio problems.
Yeah, you set this up, Ken. Come on. All right, I'm going to kick him back out because, the third time is the charm. And
That's good.
We have a question for Al, who wants to know, Warren wants to know if there's going to be a Black Magic tribute car built. Al, talk a little bit about the original Black Magic. And, with all this scene, you're in a nostalgia shop. There's all kinds of stuff. Kenny and Jim are working on new cars. People want to bring these cars back to life. What about the Black Magic?
Well, I got a proposal from somebody to do a Black Magic tribute car, and I was all on board with it, and spoke with Jim Beatty, the late Jim Beatty's wife, about it, his son, and we were on board to do it, but the deal just never came together because back like Kenny says, it had to be done the right way, and if it wasn't getting done the right way, I didn't want to be involved, so I kind of stepped out of the way, and they never went anywhere with it. There was talk about other people doing it, but it never happened. And at the time, Barbara Santucci, we lost her husband there, Dominic, and she had spoken to me about it. And I said, I don't want any conflict with it, with the Beatties, and this guy wants to do the car. Does he have the right to do the car? And there was a big conflict over doing it. So I said, I really don't want to be involved. And she said, I'll tell you one thing. If you were doing it yourself, Al, I'd give you an open hand to do it because I know you do it right. But she didn't trust the people, so it never came. But I've been asked a bunch of times they want to do the Brute car. Talking about nostalgia cars, I got two of the best in the country in the background here, and they're trying to get me in the seat to go for a ride in it. And I haven't even sat in them. I think I sat in it one time. And how come you don't sit on it? How come you don't want to take it for a ride? I said, well, I had my time, and the two guys that Mike Smith drives one of them, and another guy named John Wall, a younger guy coming up through the ranks. He's really good. They're both good drivers. So I enjoy watching them. Let them have their.
Now, what do you think? Explore that a little bit, Al. And Kenny, feel free to jump in. Why do you think, Al, everybody wants to see you go down the track again? The big show guys want to see you go down the track again. You're like, you don't want to do it. Is it because you will like it too much?
It's on the driver's end of it, it's not like throwing a switch. You know what I'm saying? You have to be, your mind has to be ready to do it, and you have to want to do it. When you get in that fire suit and get in that car, like I always told people, when I get in that car, I get in for one reason, to do my job and win. And if that's not in you, you can't just throw a switch, get in one of these cars and take it for a ride. And it's different going for a ride in one and competing in one. When you're competing, the biggest shock of any driver is when you get in and you go to stage the car and you light your top light, and all of a sudden you see the other light come on. You realize there's somebody else in this lane beside you. That's a whole new prospect. It's a whole new driving. When that other light lights up, that you have to race somebody. So it's easy to go ride by yourself, but when it's in competition, these drivers, they do a hell of a job. I watch them all. I know Beckman very well, and all these guys that drive, and I got the utmost respect for them. Kenny does also, I'm sure. These guys do a heck of a job, and like Kenny had a picture of that dragster going off to the moon there, and it's like getting shot out of a cannon. You have to be ready.
Well,
A
and
lot of things happen. I tell people, when you squeeze the pedal 1 inch, squeeze that pedal 1 inch, and your mind has to be ready for what's going to happen in that 1 inch, because the whole thing just, it goes off like an explosion.
As far as Al talking about a tribute car, wanting it to be right, I'm reminded of, I spoke with Don Perdome several years ago when we had the Fuel Coot magazine online, and I asked Don, I says, well, you know, would you be up for somebody having an Army tribute car out there? Or why don't we see in Don Perdome tribute cars out there? And he says, well, you know, he's still a competitor. Al's still there. That's in him. They're always going to be that. And so Snake says, you know, if he's got a tribute car out there, he's going to want it to be the fastest car out there. And so he says, Kenny, he says, I'd be over there wanting to know what they're doing. And he said, I'd be staying up all night thinking about the clutch setup. And he said, I've been there and did that for so many years. I don't want to do it anymore. But that kind of explains it. They're still competitive, and they don't want to go out there and have something that looks stupid with their name on it.
And real quick, I went to the web and I lifted this photo. People need to realize this. I got this off Brian's site, bankshift.com. Al, you're in there. You're inside that, Al. What the heck, Al?
Yeah, that was a highlight of my career. I got a phone call after my Brute sponsorship went away home and trying to put a sponsorship together with the Brute car with another team. And I got a call from the late Joe Paisano, and he said, I need you. I said, what do you mean? He said, I need you to come up. I want you to drive my car. I have a new engine. So I said, well, you got everybody in the West Coast who I have the utmost respect for, Dale Poldy, John Lombardo. They're right there. What do you want to fly me out from the East Coast to drive? I want you in the car. I'm going to debut this car. And that photo was the final round against, of all people, Dale Poldy in the other lane. And we pushed out from the trailer, and I was doing the clutch at the time because Joe did the motor. He didn't know anything about the clutch. And I knew there was something wrong in the Bellhausen because it wouldn't back up, but it would tow forward. So Joe said, they said, Al, you got to get in the car. Poldy's going out on the pad. So I got my suit on. We went up there. So Joe said, you okay? Is everything okay? And I said, yeah, everything's fine, Joe. Don't worry. Well, I didn't want to tell him that this is going to be a problem. And I didn't think it would be bad.
Yeah,
it was something. It was a highlight, and people don't realize that. But all the years Joe Paisano raced, he never won a Wally. With, I would say, 10 of the top best funny car drivers ever driving for Joe, and they never gave him a Wally. That was the first Wally.
Wow!
And after I gave it down the finish line, he was in tears, and he said. I said, you know what you did wrong? I said, you never put an Italian in the seat. That's why.
There
I just laughed and gave me a big hug.
All right, so we got Dan back. We got Dan back. Jim, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put you down in the green room because maybe it's a bandwidth issue. So I'm going to put Jim down in the green room. You're still there, though. We're going to bring Dan on, and here he is. And there it is. We lost Al. I don't know what I did to drop Al off, but Al made a great point. Here's Dan. You're the social director, the guy with the liver. He's drinking a beverage. What do you got, Dan? Tell us a story about Mr. Kenny Youngblood.
Yes, he's drawn a blank.
He says the audio is acting a little funny. His audio.
This is a good time.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you now. We got
I
you.
can hear you now.
Can
Yeah.
you hear me okay?
Yes, you
Yeah,
got
I didn't have a-
clearly the whole time.
about that.
All right, my sound's in and out.
Yeah,
so-
you just rapid fire tell us the funniest story you got about Kenny Youngblood. Go.
Oh, geez. I don't know if I want to hear this.
So
Was that fudge?
we may have been drinking slightly, and I had told Candy that I had my Czech liver light had come on, that I was maybe a little over the limit there, and I told him it had burned out, and that I had to get an LED bulb to try to keep up with him. So there's the story behind the Czech liver light.
There you go.
There you go. Now, what about this one? You sent me this one. Kenny sent it as well. What's the story
Are you
behind it?
There. That is the car that really got me started in the painting industry. That was my friend Gary Messenger's car. He had the Future Flash Nostalgia Funny car a few years ago. This was his dragster, 1968. It was called the Hippie. Of course, this was during the 60s and the hippie era, and I lettered it for him. And Dick Olson had painted the car, and Dick saw my work and hired me. And so that's when we started. That was the stepping stone into the industry for me. So hats off to Gary Messenger, because Tom Kelly wanted, Dick Olson wanted Tom Kelly letter for him, and Gary says, "No, I got this guy, this friend. He's pretty good." And so, thank you, Gary, for having faith in me and helped me get started.
Now
Which
that
brings us to there's so many people in our lives that help us along the way, and like Gary there, and Bob Cashler helping me, Don Kirby, Terry Cook with the magazines, and just so many people over the years that help us do our job.
that is awesome. All right, so Dan, you are last in with the audio issues. Hopefully, you can give us a final thought as we start the wind down. I got a couple other things I want to speak with Kenny about as we get down to just Kenny and I. But just your thoughts about what Kenny has been able to do, his life, his career, his artwork, the kind of person he is over the years and the time you spent with him.
Be nice, Dan. He can't hear you.
Yeah, no, he's frozen up. That's it. It's too
That's
bad.
all right.
He told me
That's
that
okay.
he had very positive things to say about you, Kenny.
Thank you, Dan.
Bummer, but there it is. We got him. Kenny is back.
Speaking of the Black Magic car, I could always tell when we did something that was really good by how widely it was imitated. And of course, my saying is imitation is the sincerest form of thievery. But I never minded that, because I knew that people were copying your stuff because it looked good. And so, like, we did the Black Magic card, and then all of a sudden, man, there was zigzags all over the place. And the same with another car. I think I sent you a picture of Corey Mack's.
Oh man, I was gonna tell. This has
Corey
been
Mack's car,
so
which
many times.
Billy Bronker worked on that car with Corey, and he called me up and says, "Kenny, I want you to do the paint scheme on this thing." And that paint scheme, it looks kind of nothing special nowadays, but that was really the first race vehicle with a big checkerboard on the side of it, and they were laid back, and then a blend on the front, and it was an outstanding piece. And of course, after that, you saw checkerboards every place. And to this day, I'm probably on every offshore boat, and you see them on boats all over the lake and stuff with the checkerboard. So that set the standard there, and it was a beautiful car.
Excellent. All right, Jim, you're going to be next out. I appreciate you for what you have done coming on the show and sharing a little time with us. And I can't wait to see this Hellfire car wherever or however. We all know we're going to make it back to NHRA drag racing. They have cackle cars out there. They have car shows, of course, the Hot Rod Reunion and the March Meet, wherever, however. I can't wait to see what you guys are going to do with this thing. But give me a final thought on Kenny and the project and what you guys got going and what you think of this guy.
Well, I tell you what, Kenny is top notch with me. He's got a lot of stuff he's doing for me now. I've seen some of the proofs, and I'm just fortunate that I know him and that he's helping me, and just want him to know that I appreciate it. And that's pretty much my final. I can hardly wait till it's totally done and ready to go.
Yeah, we're working on a painting, Joe, that I've wanted to do for years and years. That I've had in my mind, called The Last Burnout, and where Jim's was the perfect card to use as the subject. So we're working on that painting right now, and it's going to be right up there with Beyond 300, and it's really it's going to be a powerful piece. So we'll make sure that you get a look at that first, Joe. The Last Burnout.
Cannot wait. Jim, thank you for making the time and joining us here on WFO Happy Hour. Really appreciate it. Excited for what you guys got going. Thank you for spending a little time with us.
Thank you, Joe.
I'll see you at Norris, Joe.
All right.
Jim.
Take care.
Bye, Elizabeth. Yeah.
What's
Jim.
that?
I said, see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye. There you go.
Bye, Elizabeth.
All right.
Gosh, this guy, Jim, he's cool. This guy's a cool guy.
I call him Diamond Jim.
Ah, he's got skills. This guy's got skills. It's pretty impressive stuff. I love it. All right, Al, you made a lot of time. Al and I got to become friends. Got me going up to Epping, and Al, when I was a tiny guy, Kenny, like I was a little kid, my dad, loved Al Segrini because of his the OC, what is it? Obsessive compulsive disorder that all drag racers have. And he clearly has the meticulous nature of his equipment. Like my dad, a Marine Corps drill instructor, loved that. Like there's a fellow OCD kind of person. And we would always, and Al gave me posters and hat pins, and I got a picture of the Super Boot car on my wall in here, one of those original posters. Al's an amazing guy. I got to know him. And the idea that the connection was here, he was the guy I thought I was going to surprise you with, and you put him on the list, right? You put him on the list.
There you go.
But, Al jumped at it in a second, went over to the shop. It's been great. Al, what is it like, seeing Kenny and realizing that one of your, the name was part of this man's amazing career?
It's an honor anytime I get to see Kenny, and I have not I put Kenny on the highest pinnacle. I said, he all you all know. He's a friend of mine. Can't even expect in New England. I got to take him over. He'd love this.
Of course, the internet fails us here at the very last second, but we got the gist in. You can tell that it's love that's coming. Al, your audio is a little sketchy, but we could tell that there's love. We could tell that. All right, Al. Okay. Thank you very much. See you in a few months. There he goes, Al Segrini, ace. So amazing what Al has been over the years. And Kenny, here we are.
Here we are, man.
Hour complete. Now I saved a couple of things to get to this point, though, because I wanna get a couple of takes. But so far, so good. How's it been?
Oh, fantastic! This has been a great day here.
Awesome. Oh, I appreciate it. Okay, so yeah, Denny is like audio not working so good. Yeah, the internet, it's imperfect, but we're doing our best, and we'll be posting on WFO Radio.
I wish we got a. Can I tell my Bob Gertis story? I wish we could have got him on.
So Bob Gertis from Circus Custom Paint reached out to him, and it was like, you say this guy's the best painter on the East Coast of the country.
That's correct, and one of the best in the world. And back in the day when we would design these cars, there was only a handful of painters that I could trust to put that design on the car, make it look right. And I would tell guys, they would come to me and maybe spend a good chunk of change for a paint design. And I'd say, well, who's going to paint the car? Well, my brother-in-law's best friend, has a body shop. And, that was always pretty scary because you never knew what you were going to get. But with guys like Bob Gertis, you knew that it was going to come out great. And not only that, but we became good friends. And Bob's a New Jersey stand-up guy. And one time I had a client that stiffed me for a paycheck, and he was back there on the East Coast. And I called Bob and I says, you know who this guy is? And he says, yeah. I think that guy's a photographer out of Englishtown. He says, we can take care of things like this, Kenny. And I says, oh man, I don't want to. He says, we can drop a dime on this guy if you want. I said, oh man, I don't want to get nobody hurt, And he says, you did a paint scheme for, I won't name the team, some brothers up in New England there. And he said, they really like you, and that's what they do. And he says, they can get your money for you, And so I said, I don't know. So Bob and I never really came to the agreement at the same time to do that, but he was ready to apply the East Coast method to get me paid. I eventually did get paid from the guy anyway. So
that's all a myth anyway. I don't think it's actually true. Krista Baldwin out there watching says hi, Uncle Kenny, and Krista is obviously the future of the sport. I want to see her get her opportunity to run Top Fuel. Randy saying what's up. All right, we got a couple more pieces of artwork that I want to. Let's see. Jeffrey Perspective helped color our sport for fans for most interesting years of our sport. That is a very well thought out statement there, Jeff. I appreciate it. All right, we're going to do a couple of things, and then I want to finish off with Snake and Mongoose. First of all, you're known for the lights. Like that's a talent and ability. That right there, we're not looking at a real grill. That's not there. How do you do that?
Oh, it just, don't happen overnight. I mean, I look at some of the first work that we did, and it looked pretty crude to me. I didn't invent it. I think Tom Kelly was the first guy I ever saw that put headlights on a car, but we maybe kind of took it to the next level, and I really love doing that part of it. That's more of an artist job than sign painting. And so every job you do, you learn more little techniques. And I must say that the principles of art are the same, whether you draw on a portrait, a flower pot, or some headlights on a car. The principles of art, the color, the contrast, the perspective and everything. And I learned all that from my mother, Marie Youngblood. And so it's not a day goes by. Everything that I do, I use a lot of the tricks and stuff that she taught me. But that's the fun part. And of course, there's guys nowadays, Glenn Weisgerber and Stickman Eric Reyes out there, that Phil Whetstone and Dennis Jones, and they do beautiful work and some stuff that makes what I did look shabby. But we were glad to be there, kind of get the ball rolling back in the day.
I met Eric. He's a racer.
And of course, for those fans that haven't heard it, I've told this story before, but speaking of headlights, back in the 70s, we were doing a car for Bergler and Proc. They're Vega. They came out for the winter to get a new car built, and then we're building the Bergler and Proc Vega, and it was at the paint shop, and I'm painting on it. And Tom Proc was there, and he's watching me. I'm laying out the grill and the headlights and stuff, and Tom, he's pretty stoic, and he says, Kenny, I just got one question. I said, what's that, Tom? He says, are you going to paint the headlights on or off? And I says, well, are you going to be racing in the daytime or the nighttime?
Excellent.
And he left me alone.
There it is. There it is. I like it. And I got a couple of stories. I did some research, spoke with Pat Galvin, and he told me that, you could carry on a conversation while you painted, that you did great work, but also you could do two things at once. You weren't the kind of person that had to block out every other human being to do your job well.
Yeah, I've always been pretty shaky and pretty nervous. I really prefer nobody watching me do stuff, but I guess, I could do two things there, no problem.
All right, tell me about this photograph here, this amazing photo. What's up with this photo?
Well, that's not a photo, is it, Joe? That's a painting. It's one of our portraits of a Roy Brizio built street rod. And the client wanted me to do a painting of the car, and he sent me a bunch of different photos. And I love this one with the old store in the background. And so it took a little time to paint that background in there, but that was it came out really nice.
Amazing, amazing. All right, this one, you and Morgan.
Now
You-
this is a rare piece here. Not too many people have ever seen this. Dave, that runs the Lucas Hospitality area, and another one of those unsung heroes, those people that we know out there that are part of our family. And Dave one day, he says, Kenny, he says, I want you to commission you to do a painting. I want to put your car and Morgan's car in the painting. And I says, my car? What are you talking about? My old dragster? He says, yeah, put your dragster, your 1968 car in this painting with Morgan. And so I says, okay. So I created the painting, and of course, everybody says, oh, you're beating him. I said, well, he's coming by me, at 300. So
Yeah.
But it was a fun piece there. And of course, I could use a little artistic license. My car didn't make that much flames, but you can do that with a paintbrush.
Now here's another one, and this is one Dan sent. Dan had a couple of things, but he wanted to make sure that we knew that the Lions Museum, that the grandstands photo, like those people that you see, they're spectators, but they're not just spectators. That every one of those people is a person of significance, and that you put it. In fact, there's you looking through the fence. Tell us about that piece of work.
Well, it's a fantastic project. About 2.5 years ago, Dave Mandela contacted me about coming down. They wanted to do this Lions Museum inside Rick Lorenzen's car collection down there. And it was a huge project. And I actually, they wanted murals on these walls. And frankly, I didn't want to work that hard. So I was trying to talk them into doing wall wraps and doing it digitally and everything. And we even tried some test areas. And I knew that hand-painted murals would be the way to go. I just didn't want to work that hard. But they said, no, we got to have hand-painted murals. So I started to work on it. And of course, it was a bigger, huge project for one guy. I had Yvonne Michalis and Keith Moreland working with me on that, and Tim Seeger and Tommy Knockers. And so we had a team, and Tommy and Tim would do the digital stuff and layouts and signs and things we needed. And Yvonne and Keith did all the skies. And anyway, so we worked about 2 years down there, and 5,000 square feet of murals. And it's quite a deal. If I'm not sure about their schedule, but you can get a hold of Lana Chrisman at the Lions Drag Strip Museum, and hopefully get in there and see that. And he's got an amazing car collection as well. But that's the biggest job I ever did.
Wow, that is tremendous. Okay, just some things. We'll do some rapid fire, and then I want to finish off on Snake and Goose, because you mentioned Snake. But this one to me is maybe one of the most beautiful drag racing themes, pieces of art that I've ever seen. I've experienced that moment many times, not necessarily at Pomona, but as a kid coming up, now as the guy who stands on the stage last year as Dusty or whomever over the years comes through in the Home of the Brave, Light the Cars. This moment is iconic for drag racing, and you've captured it in a way that is so accurate and perfect.
Yeah, well, I would be out there in the stands, and this, of course, was the late Mark Schlatter, who would skydive with that huge flag. And I would just get goosebumps every time he did it. And I thought, man, somebody's got to do a painting of this thing, and I think it's going to be me. And so I worked from photographs that Mark had and some of the other photographers, and that painting is unique in a couple of ways. I added the I don't know if it was Winston Vision, I guess, back on the side of the track, on the right bottom side of that picture, you can see him coming down on the screen on the right side. And then the gentleman who's down there in the right corner is Gray Baskerville, the late Gray Baskerville, who's editor of Hot Rod Magazine. And of course, the most interesting thing was that I used a little artistic license in that we rotated the Earth 90 degrees, Joe, because the sun actually sets off to the right over behind Brackett Field. But I wanted a sunset in the background, so we just rotated the Earth and put it in there. I can tell you a funny little story about that piece, in that on the guardrail on the left side, it's got the different around the fence. It's got the different signage back there, Winston and I think
Auto parts and
auto parts and Coors and or Budweiser, and so I told NHRA I was going to do it. I didn't want to any surprises, and I says I'd like to put your Winston on everything on the fence just like it is. Is that okay with you? And they said, well, yeah, but you have to get permission from Winston and the it's not what's the anyway the other store there that was involved, and so Winston was good with it, and the other anyway. I got to Budweiser and I called him, and I just got some lady in the marketing department. She didn't know me, she didn't know drag racing, and told her what I was doing and asked her if it'd be okay, and she started to tell me about how I'd have to pay him money and get a licensing agreement and all this stuff, and I says, well, that sounds like a lot of work. I says, I know the people at Coors. I'll just put a Coors banner up there instead.
Sure.
And she says, well, just a minute. And she came back and she goes, oh, that's okay. Put Budweiser on there. So
exactly. How terrible.
That.
Terrible.
Yeah.
But if you were a lesser negotiator, you would have tried to pay the money, and they were hoping that. Now, you mentioned the magazine. Let's talk about that. I got a couple of covers, like beautiful thing. This was a thing for a while. What was it? Online only?
It was. I did it online only, did it for 2 years. And it was just something I wanted to do because I love the nostalgia of funny cars. And so it was really kind of a unique thing. It was online, but it was strictly dedicated to the nostalgia fuel funny cars. And every month we do features on the cars, and I was very proud of it. It was a lot of work. I especially like doing the covers because the creative part. And so I would work with different photographers. J.D. Klein did a lot of those shots, and then Tommy Nakarada would help me lay out all the graphics on the covers, and so it was a lot of fun. And did a great job and had some great features. I always wanted to do a magazine, make it as personal as possible. We'd do features we'd show their pets, and we'd show the best pit recipes and things like that. And it was successful. The only reason I quit doing it was just the time thing. It'd take at least a week out of my month every year to put it together, and I just had other things I had to do. So we parked it. Plus, I hate deadlines. I'm surprised I did it for 2 years because I have to put myself under deadline every month.
Deadline, anyway, I'm against deadlines. You did some movies, and some motorcycle stuff also. I don't want to.
That's another non-drag racing piece there. We did the poster for On Any Sunday too. I can tell you a really good story about that.
Yes, break it down.
When I did this, they were. I worked with the director. The producer, Roger Riddell. And at the time, the movie Rocky had come out. And he says, yeah, I want to do this monolithic poster with the rider with his arms up in the air like Rocky. And I just knew that was a great concept. And I thought, oh, yeah, boy, we can do this, And so I had a friend act as a model for me. We put a motorcycle up on some blocks and things, and I had him up on the bike and would take various pictures for him for reference to use. And as it ended up, he was kind of a scrawny little kid. So when I did the actual painting, I kind of pumped him up a little bit and made his arms a little bit bigger. I mean, we're talking Rocky here, And so I got it all done, and I took it down to show it to the producer, and took it in his editing room there, and it was just him and he looked at it, he goes, yeah, that's really great. He says, but hey, he says, do you mind if I show it to my wife? And I says, well, you can put it on the sidewalk and show it to everybody you want, but I can only please one person. And he says, well, yeah, let's take it or show it. So we go over to his Beverly Hills mansion, and he had his lovely wife in there, and she looks at it and she goes, well, I think his arms are too big. And Roger, to please his wife, he goes, Kenny, can you make his arms a little smaller? And I says, well, I can do it, Roger. But I says, there's nothing wrong with his arms, so I'm going to have to charge you to do that. And he goes, well, that's okay. I'll pay, So I go back and rework and bring his arms down a little bit. I take it back down to the studio, and this time it is a whole room full of people in there. And he sets it up in front of them, and everybody's oohing and on, and then it kind of gets quiet. And this one guy says, should have made his arms bigger.
No, of course. Good.
So
So
that's Hollywood.
Over picky. That's what
Yeah. Can only please one person.
Okay, on the home stretch here. Spider-Man McBride, right? Yes, no? Which is
No, Elmer Trett, the late, great Elmer Trett.
Right in there. It's the
And,
that tripped me up. Go ahead.
Of course, there was 3 guys.
Look at that.
Terminal Van Lines. Who was Terminal Van Lines? What was his name? Gosh. No, it's just my tongue. Anyway, back in the 69, 70, who built the first configuration with the sideways 4-banger with the blower up front and the headers out the back. And that was, his name escapes me. I know the fans are going to get on me about this. But anyway, and then after him, Elmer Trett came along and built the beautiful Mountain Magic bike, which again, sidewinder 4-banger with the pipes out the back, which of course Elmer lost his life on his bike at Indy in a tragic accident. But Elmer, I never met him, but he was one of my heroes, and so I did the edition. I talked to him on the phone, and it was going to be a limited edition of like 750 prints, and he was going to sign them all, and so he says, "Well, ship half of them back here to me before I go to Indy, and then when I get back, I'll sign the other half." And of course, he never made it back. But we've got another little artistic license in that painting of Elmer was that it's a night shot, and he actually had a smoked visor, so you couldn't really see his face at all in there, especially at night. But I thought, you know what, he's got such an intense look on his face, and so I had a daytime picture of him with his face, and so I put his face in there, and that, of course, really made the painting. But that's world's fastest drag bike.
That makes the painting. All right, a couple more. The character, I remember my dad telling me this, Benito Magneto.
Yeah, that goes back to, again, Bob Cashler, the marketing guy back in my mentor in the early 70s, and a very smart guy. And back then, the funny cars, they didn't have good aerodynamics on them. They didn't have spoilers on the back. They didn't have spoilers on the front. And the things were starting to fly. Bob Pickett one night down in Orange County, the thing got in the lights and just took off. And so Bob wrote a story for CarCraft, I think, about funny car aerodynamics. And so I created Benito Magneto, and the car has every downforce feature known to man. But the funny part, of course, it's comedic. I mean, it's got sandbags on it and stuff, which you release after the launch. You know, the sandbags. Now, the safety safari hated the sandbags, because they'd have to go clean them up. But anyway, but the amazing thing about Benito is there's a whole list of things on that car that were ahead of their time that the cars didn't have yet. They didn't have roof hatches.
Yep.
They didn't have front wheel bumps on them. It's got laid back headers. It's got parachutes out the side. It's got a multi-stage wing. I thought, you know, a whole bunch of stuff. So Benito was ahead of his time.
I remember this one. My dad loved this one. We used to laugh about it. Benito Magneto. Yeah. Amazing stuff. All right. So now let's talk about the 2 guys that in many ways really helped take drag racing to the next level. I'm talking about Snake and Mongoose. You showed a photograph of you and Tom a little bit earlier. His cars were amazing. Of Tom. This shot, amazing. And I know you did a lot of work. So what work did you do for Snake and Mongoose over the years?
Yeah, before I tell you, the Terminal Van Lines bike was Bo Obrachta. It came to me. My memory finally worked.
Good.
At any rate, I met Tom and Snake down there at Kirby's. And of course, again, I mean, I'm a kid. I was 19, 20 years old and a fan. And so here I'm getting to work for Don Perdome and Tommy Kuhn on their Hot Wheels cars. And what a honor. And of course, I wanted to make them look as nice as I could. I didn't do the original Hot Wheels cars, but I did a couple of them thereafter. And we did the square back dragsters for them and quite a few cars. and of course the Army car for the snake, which was again one of the trend-setting paint schemes, possibly certainly the first great corporate paint scheme. It incorporated the paint job, went over the roof, wrapped around the roof, which at that time nobody had ever done, but it was a very striking deal. And we did that for the snake, and as well as redesigned the animal on the side. Believe it or not, it used to be polka dotted blue. If you look at the old Hot Wheels cars, the snake was powder blue with polka dots. And I thought, man, I'm just not going to put this polka dotted snake on here. And so, good Lord gave me the idea for the Stars and Stripes snake. Wow. And which the story goes, I knew it was a home run when we did it, and I showed it to Don, and he was he's very conservative, like change stuff, and he didn't want to put it on there. He wanted to put his polka dotted snake on there, and I was just against that. Bo Brock, that was the guy. Oh, yeah. And so my wife is reminding me. And so I ended up lettering the car in my garage in orange, and Snake was there to show me where he wanted all the decals painted on. Back then, everything was hand painted on the cars. And the snake on the side was the last thing. And I says, now we're going to put this new snake on here, right? And he started to balk.
No.
And I felt my blood pressure come up, and I got fired up. I says, look, Don, this snake goes on here, or get it out of here. And he says, hey, man, don't get mad. Just go ahead and do what you want. But if nobody likes it, it's your fault. Well, of course, everybody loved it. But the story doesn't end there. A couple years later, when we did when he upgraded, when he had Skoal or Pepsi Challenger, I believe, the Pepsi Challenger. And I wanted to do the original snake was three-dimensional, and I wanted to do more of a flat graphic. And I came up with really a cool design for that. And I showed him the new graphic design. I said, what do you think about using this updated snake? And he says, I don't know, man. And he stopped and he says, I think we had this conversation a couple of years ago. Just do what you want to do. So
that is great. Well, first, you've got a pretty good show on the snake that you do. I could tell. That's yeah. Good.
I hung around Donnie Couch. Let me tell you, man. The snake, what an incredible guy, and one of the best racers of history of all time. Kenny, I can't say enough. This has been so much fun, outstanding fun getting together, being able to look at your artwork and get the story behind it and connect. And to me, it couldn't have been better to be able to sit and chat with you about some of the work. And the thing that's most exciting to me is that there's more coming, that you are still working, still active, still love drag racing, and doing what you can do to push the sport forward. We need that, and I appreciate it. And thank you for joining us. A final question. If I were king, what is that? Where did it come from? What does it mean? Well, when I had Fuel Coup magazine, I would do my own editorial every month. And the title of my editorial column was If I Were King, what I would do in drag racing, big show, nostalgia, whatever. It was my little soapbox I could get up on, which every drag racer would like to have, that soapbox. And hey, this is my magazine. I can say what I want. And so if I were king, I would do this or do that in drag racing. And that's where that came from.
And Dan had told me that the Blood Did It idea came from somewhere.
Let's see. Yeah, but I forgot.
Well, he said it was a decent story. Oscar says, great show. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff was helpful as well. Kenny, final thoughts. Thank you. That's my final thought. I appreciate it. We're all in this weird spot because we can't, no big show just yet. Coming back in July, Indianapolis. We know about Seattle. That's a bummer, but we're doing what we got to do to stay healthy. But shows like this, I think, are helping getting the fans through. This has been better than I could even imagine it.
Yeah, it's great, Joe. You keep the family together here. We know we're in contact, and you do a fantastic job. And we're all looking forward to that first bzzz hit the starter and cack them up, firing the pipes, as my wife says. So we'll see you then. Yeah, it was Gary Messenger. The blood did it was when I painted Gary Messenger's hippie dragster, and I took it down to have Dick Olson paint the clear coat on it. And Dick looked at it and he says, "Who did that?" And Gary says, "Blood did it." And we just stuck with it. So
the rest,
old bleeder signing off.
The rest is history. Kenny, thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you out there whenever it is that I see you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for going through the work, guys. He sent us all this art. It was all Kenny. And I really appreciate it. Thank you. Happy hour. It's been great. Have a great weekend.
And you fans, if you're out there at the big show, be sure and go on a pit tour with Joe, because I want to take it myself, but I'm usually working. I can't do it. But him and Johnny Motor, they take the fans around the pits, and you get to see the place inside and out. So,
well,
Joe,
wait. Thank you for that. Like, that means a lot. And you mentioned Gypsy. Gypsy's been very supportive. People have been very supportive of that. A great idea that behind the scenes we hatched, because we want first-time fans to feel like they know something about it. But hey, we were gonna talk about a link to a website. Let's do shameless plugs, right? Like, you know, people can have a Kenny Youngblood in their house if they want. What do they do? Where do they go?
Well, actually, I have stuff for sale at fineartamerica.com. If you go to Fine Art America and put in Kenny Youngblood, it'll bring up, I have quite a few pieces on there. I'm adding pieces to it all the time. But that's where we're at online with the artwork.
Well, that's great. FineArtAmerica.com and get yourself a Kenny Youngblood. And of course, you're at the track, and Marvin Rodak, our sponsor, coffee sponsor, was like, "Look at mine." And he sent me a text where you sign it to the individual person. Great stuff that you do that. Kenny, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thank you for doing this.
You're welcome, Joe. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
God bless all you fans.
Thanks to Terry as well. Thank you so much. Kenny Youngblood, what do you think about that? Piece by piece, work by work, era by era, the three, the Sullivan car, the snake. Amazing. Simply amazing. I have had such a good time. What a great way to spend happy hour. And if you like the show, we encourage you to go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify. For you listeners out there, you watch it on Facebook and YouTube. You can watch it on Twitter. But if you want to listen to the audio during the week, if you missed a portion of it, this one's going to be tough for you audio-only people because you missed out on the art. Bummer. What can I do? This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But Apple Podcasts, Spotify, write a review, please. YouTube, subscribe, click the bell. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at WFO Joe. Really appreciate that. And, of course, if you want a T-shirt, WFO Radio T-shirts. Maybe we get Kenny to design the next WFO Radio T-shirt. Maybe that can happen. But this one designed by me, WFO Radio or WFO 20. Get 20% off at nitrofishracing.com. We still got masks as well. Big thanks to the sponsors like samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Don't forget to check out the podcast we create for them, Factory Stock Podcast, coming back in July. Also, Hidden Horsepower by Total Seal, talking about Total Seal piston rings, the leader in ring seal technology. Got gas-ported pistons, piston rings. They can make horsepower over stock. They can make horsepower over some of the best. That's why people from Stock Eliminator to Formula One choose Total Seal piston rings. Steve Brenwald is our own graphic arts guy and has been very helpful to us over the years. Really appreciate Steve. Frank Atlanta Hawley, frankhawley.com. If you want to drive a dragster, if you want to become a champion driver, if you're a bracket racer who wants to get better, go to frankhawley.com. Really appreciate that. And I mentioned Marvin Rodak, who sent me his own Youngblood. Super excited that we had Kenny on, and actually submitted a question earlier and I spaced and didn't put it up, but Kenny answered the question anyway. And there you go. Well, everybody, it's Friday, and we had a little bad news this week. I know that the Seattle race is not going to happen. It was bad news for me because that was going to be the first one that I'm going to. But, oh well. Earlier this week, we had Tony Schumacher on. We had Jackie Frick on. Great stuff. Fun show. If you're on Facebook, start a watch party. Do it all over again. To Dan Althouse, who didn't get in. Dan, apologize, bud. Sorry. Also, to Mighty Mike, driver of the Invader funny car, who was out there watching, hopefully, who's recovering from a little bit of an incident. Thank you for being out there. And, of course, Jim Shue, Al Segrini, Bob Gertis was going to come on the show and was just like a last-minute, late-second addition, and it just did not work out. To everybody out there who filled in, here's Dan. Frank's the man. Jeff, thank you so much, Jeff. Appreciate it. Terry, thank you, Terry. Oh, Lex June wanted me to ask Kenny about his European trip. Oh, I forgot that. We'll get him next time. Hopefully, Kenny, now that once you do it once, you come back and it's a little bit easier. We'll be back Tuesday, Alan Reinhart. Then later on in the week, we'll just have new guests. Who knows who they will be? We just don't know. But it was a lot of fun connecting with Mr. Youngblood. And big thanks to our sponsors. And have yourselves a great weekend, everybody. Again, share the show. And we'll see you next time right here on WFO Radio.